In a significant milestone for Indian aviation, Vistara's last flight departed from Biju Patnaik International Airport in Bhubaneswar to Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport. This flight marked the end of Vistara as an independent brand as it prepares to fully integrate with Air India. A massive fire broke out in a forest area near Gando Bhalesa village in Jammu and Kashmir's Doda district late Monday night. Huge flames were visible from a distance as locals and fire services department personnel tried to control the blaze. No injuries or casualties were reported in this incident. A lion family entered a residential house in Kovaya village, Rajula Taluk of Amreli. While the residents were fast asleep at night, the lions wandered into the courtyard of the house. The entire incident was captured on video, which quickly went viral on social media. Thousands marched through the streets of New York to celebrate Veterans Day, while smaller parades were held across the nation to honor Americans who have served in the U.S. military. President Joe Biden also honored the service and sacrifice of America's military veterans. And a New York judge is set to decide whether President-elect Donald Trump's criminal conviction on charges involving hush money paid to a porn star should be overturned in light of the U.S. Supreme Court's July ruling on presidential immunity. It is the first of two pivotal choices that the judge must make after Trump's November 5 election victory. U.S. President Joe Biden will host President-elect Donald Trump for a traditional post-election meeting in the Oval Office on Wednesday, while White House states that such a meeting is customary between the outgoing president and the incoming president and is meant partly to mark the start of a peaceful transfer of power under America's democracy. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has named longtime advisor Stephen Miller, an immigration hardliner, as his deputy chief of policy in his new administration. Miller was a senior advisor in Trump's first term and has been a central figure in many of the former president's policy decisions, notably his move to separate thousands of immigrant families as a deterrence program in 2018. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has picked Florida Representative Mike Waltz as his national security advisor, marking the most important appointment yet for India from his incoming government. After getting re-elected, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba reappointed most of his previous cabinet members, including Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwaya, Defense Minister Gen Nakatani, and Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi. Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba pledged to take tougher measures against misuse of political funds after he was re-elected by the parliament. Haiti's ruling Presidential Council welcomed a new Prime Minister, entrepreneur Alex Didier Fils-Aime, after ousting the current executive, longtime United Nations civil servant Gary Connell. After less than 6 months in office, the shake-up in the country's months-old political transition came after weeks of tensions between Connell and the Transitional Presidential Council. Meanwhile, amid the swearing-in of Haiti's new Prime Minister, shootouts broke out between police and gangs in the Haitian capital Port-au-Prince. Few residential homes were also set on fire. The unrest continued as the island nation's main airport temporarily shut down as gangs also attempted to seize control. President Daniel Noboa removed his second-in-command as a political obstacle in Ecuador, while electoral authorities disqualified a conservative candidate ahead of February's election. Ecuador's vice president alleged that her temporary suspension as a plot by the president to re-elect himself in 2025. Leaders at an Arab and Islamic summit called for a push to freeze Israel's membership in the United Nations, signaling an intensified response to the ongoing conflict in the region. The call comes as Israeli military actions continue in Gaza and Lebanon, which has further fueled tension in the Middle East. The summit, hosted in Riyadh, was convened with the goal of ending violence in Gaza and Lebanon. An Israeli airstrike destroyed a home in northern Lebanon on Monday, killing at least 8 people and wounding 14 others. The Israeli military did not immediately comment on the strike, and the target was not clear. Israel's first strike in the Akka region was on November 2nd and targeted a bridge near a Lebanese army checkpoint, cutting a key road leading to Syria. With this, death toll from Israeli strikes on Lebanon rises to 3,243. Afghanistan's first delegation at United Nations climate talks since the Taliban's return to power in 2021 has arrived in Azerbaijan in a bid to garner support for climate action in the climate vulnerable nation. Matiul Haq Khalis, who is the head of the country's Environment Protection Agency, said that Afghanistan is among the worst affected nations by climate change. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg holds protests in Georgia against Azerbaijan hosting of COP29 climate talks in Baku. Greta Thunberg labeled the move to hold the COP29 climate talks in Azerbaijan absurd. She said that Azerbaijan should not be given legitimacy to host the United Nations annual summit to discuss how to avoid increasing threats from climate change. Thousands of anti-government protesters in Serbia demanded arrests and the resignations of top officials over the deadly collapse of a concrete roof at a railway station that killed 14 people in a northern city this month. The rally in Belgrade blamed the collapse on rampant corruption and sloppy renovation work on the station building. A jury in the small Indiana town of Delphi has convicted a man in the 2017 killings of 2 girls who vanished during an afternoon hike. Richard Allen was accused of cutting the throats of 13-year-old Abigail Williams and 14-year-old Liberty German after forcing the girls known as Abby and Libby off a trail in February 2017. Dozens of people armed with sticks and firecrackers set a tram on fire in Amsterdam while the city is facing tensions following violence last week targeting fans of an Israeli soccer club. Meanwhile, the Dutch police on Monday announced 5 new arrests in their investigation into that earlier violence. The Brampton Triveni Community Centre in Canada on Sunday cancelled its planned life certificate event by the Indian consulate, citing concerns over a possible extremely high and imminent threat level of violent protests. Scheduled for November 17, the consular camp was set to offer Indian origin Hindus and Sikhs a chance to renew essential life certificates. Officials say a cruise ship rescued 4 people from a disabled catamaran taking on water hundreds of miles off the coast of Bermuda. As per officials, catamaran's escape hatch blew a gasket, causing the vessel to take on water about 265 miles off the coast of Bermuda. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez announced new measures approved earlier by his cabinet to help those whose livelihoods have been affected by the recent catastrophic flash floods that left more than 200 dead and others missing. Sanchez said his government would be extending a social shield that will help over 4 lakh workers maintain their incomes and 1 lakh households to cover their basic needs. Shifting our focus to cricket, Team India has arrived in Centurion for the third T20 international against South Africa. Following the disappointing loss in the last game, the men in blue are looking for a bounce back and win and reclaim the lead in the 4-match series. Meanwhile, New Zealand's hat-trick hero from the last match, Lockie Ferguson, has been ruled out of the upcoming ODI series against Sri Lanka. The Black Caps have confirmed that the pacer has suffered a calf strain in their second T20 match against the Lankans. Rahmanullah Gurbaz's electrifying century guided Afghanistan to a 5-wicket win over Bangladesh at Sharjah last night. The win also helped the Afghans secure a 2-1 victory in the 3-match ODI series against the Bengal Tigers. A new era has begun at Manchester United with Ruben Amorim officially taking over as the head coach of the Red Devils. The Portuguese tactician was pictured with the Old Trafford top bosses outside the club's training complex with his coaching team. Meanwhile, Premier League referee David Coote has been suspended after a video allegedly showed him making derogatory comments about Liverpool and the club's former manager. As per the league's refereeing body, the suspension comes into force with immediate effect and is pending a full probe. It's the final countdown for Tom Cruise's next Mission Impossible outing, with the film's first trailer hitting the internet today. The release of Final Reckoning was postponed due to the actor's strike and will be arriving on the big screen in 2025, a year later than expected.
That's the pattern, isn't it? You refuse to sacrifice the ones you hold close.
Navjot Singh Sidhu is back on Kapil Sharma's show after over 5 years. Kapil Sharma gave a sneak peek of his next guest, who is none other than the cricketer turned politician. Sidhu also took to Instagram to share a teaser of himself being on the sets of the great Indian Kapil show, leaving Archana Singh worried.
भाभी आपकी शादी को कितने साल हो गए?
32 साल।
मैथमेटिक्स में वीक है। जितना करण की उम्र है ना, उसमें 1 साल ऐड कर। लोग की वेट करते रहते हैं।
As excitement builds for the release of I Want to Talk starring Abhishek Bachchan, the makers dropped the film's first song, Dil Ghabraye, on Monday. Sung by acclaimed indie artist Taba, the track marks his Bollywood debut, adding an evocative touch to the film's soundtrack.